The views expressed by the guests of The Real ShowCast do not necessarily represent the views of The Real ShowCast or its hosts. Enjoy the show.
Deedle, 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 deedle. Robble, 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 deedle, deedle, robble, deedle. Welcome to the cast, The Real ShowCast.
Welcome to The Real ShowCast. I'm your host, Tommy Mack, and with me, maybe not as for always, I hope for always, at least in my heart, my main man, one of my oldest friends, honestly, in the world.
What are you talking about? You like what do you mean?
Not like old as in old, but like our friendship is one of the oldest friendships that I have.
Keep going.
Beautiful, the voluptuous Eric Stretch.
Oh, thank you. That's like the best intro I think you've ever given me.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that.
Yeah, do what I can.
Very happy to be here, Tommy. Thanks for having me again.
Of course, you are the man.
I'll take
people
that.
Love you.
I'll take
I love
that.
you.
I love you.
Thank you.
Tommy and I were in No Authority together, just in case you guys didn't know.
It's true.
So
if you're sick of hearing us say that,
too bad, you're gonna hear it all the time.
That's true.
It's all we have left.
That's right.
That's not true.
So yeah, Eric, if you would please introduce our wonderful guest today. You have really given her some glowing reviews as a friend and as an entertainer. So I'm excited to really dig in and get to know you.
For the real, on the real ShowCast, I'm so excited, very, very excited to introduce this next guest. You may know her from the TBS hit show The Guest Book as having the best stripper name. Please welcome Tickles, Carly Jibson.
All
Thank
right.
you. Oh, I clapped
Welcome.
for myself. That's obnoxious.
That's okay.
I felt it was a little barren in here, so I felt like I had to add to it.
Just have fun with it.
Carly,
Just
thank
have
you
fun.
so much for joining us.
Oh my God, thanks for having me.
Should we go ahead?
Well, sure. We'll get this going. We have some magic water.
Magic
We're just gonna
water. It
enjoy
is
some-
noon,
Cheers.
so let's.
The Real ShowCast magic water.
And
Oh, with
we
no
go.
chaser.
Magic water with a water chaser.
Mother's milk.
Oof, delicious. Oh crap!
What was Mother into?
Oh man. Oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. It's like old times up in here.
It's only 7 a.m.
I know. I was like all of a sudden.
Kidding.
So Carly, well,
Yes.
Tommy, go ahead. Sorry, I don't want to step on your toes.
Well, no, not at all. Not at all. Feel free.
Okay.
In fact, you hop into it.
Got it.
Hop in. Hop
So-
inside me.
What we really want to discusk.
Holy moly!
You gave
that
me
went-
vodka. Like
that went straight to the
It's
head.
fully happening.
I see how this is gonna be.
I'm having fun already. We
And
want to talk
just
about,
like that.
that's
all it
all you
takes.
need. I'm easy like that. We want to talk about this crazy world that we call the entertainment industry
Sure.
and some of your experiences. But what we really want to focus on is about how you got your start at such a young age. And I'm referring to specifically
You can say it.
Hairspray, the musical.
The musical. Yeah.
For those who don't really know about the show, which I don't know why you wouldn't, can you explain a little bit about your character and about Hairspray, the musical?
It's hilarious. It's been a billion years since I've had to like pitch this as if no one's ever heard it before, because by now I feel like everybody does and should know about the show. But
Sure.
It takes place in the 1960s in Baltimore. This is pre the Kennedy assassination, just a little bit more of an innocent time. And there was a television show that featured dancers, and in our little faux reality that we create in this world of thanks to the brilliant mind of John Waters, there's this girl, Tracy Turnblad, and she's 16, and she loves the Corny Collins show, and she wants so badly to be a dancer, and she goes down and she auditions for the show, and of course, because of her type, they don't see her fitting into their little like echelon of what they think America wants to see on TV. And so she sort of fights against that and uses her friendships that she makes along the way. And I mean, spoiler alert, like she ends up like integrating the show, and it talks a lot about race and class and acceptance and body image, but then also the mother is typically played by a man. Famously was Harvey Fierstein in the Broadway production. Bruce Valanche played my mom on the road, and Michael McKean also played my mom on
Yes.
Broadway. So there's a lot of different elements of topics of conversation that take place within the show. The music is incredible. It's all 1960s. It's Mark Shaman and Scott
The
Whitman.
music is fantastic.
So
If you haven't seen the musical, you guys, then do yourself
I'm
a favor.
having full-blown PTSD flashbacks of doing these interviews when I was like 18 years old, trying to tell people about the show because they were like, I saw the movie when I was like 12, and so it's been a long time.
Great segue.
How did speaking of that, how did you get involved? How did you come? Because where did you grow up?
I grew up in Michigan. I was born in the South in Alabama, Decatur, Alabama.
Hater.
And and when my folks split, we moved back up to Michigan because that's where both my parents were from. And so I spent the better part of my formative years in the Mitten. And I was going to school at a wonderful performing arts school. It was still a public school, but it was like they literally like segregated off where all the rich people lived and built a school there.
Wow.
And I was very poor, and so I was illegally going to the school. Got caught a couple different times, tried to be ousted a couple different times by some real mad parents. And I was doing a summer stock show in my hometown at this regional theater called Cherry County Playhouse. Bill Castellino, Bill Whitefield, and Christopher McGovern had written this brand new original world premiere show called Crash Nation, which it was done by 8 kids. We were all the musicians on stage. It was like Stomp meets Rent meets like Schoolhouse Rock. And it dealt with a lot of issues like abortion and coming out and having sex for the first time and Columbine.
Wow,
And
that was pretty
it was
scandalous.
very heavy, and it was very irreverent. And I was doing that show at the time. So Bill Castellino, who was one of the writers of the show, and he was the artistic director of Cherry County at the time, which is now a theater that's unfortunately gone debunked, in my hometown. His agent, Brett Adams, came and saw the show because they were looking to move it to New York. Ultimately, that was the goal. And so he came and saw the show, and I'll never forget. I was 16 at the time, and I was like, of course, we're all backstage. There's a New York agent in the house, and like we're like, this is it. We're all getting discovered.
Guffman.
Like,
it's completely
oh,
waiting
it's
for Guffman.
so Guffman. It's so very Guffman.
It's the moment we've made it. Yeah.
Oh, and we're all turning on each other at the last minute. Like there isn't even anything up for grabs, but we've created this whole scenario.
Teenagers.
And so, oh man, my friend Julie and I were like at each other that week. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
And so he came and saw the show, and I met him afterwards. I went, and he was sitting at this like round table at the restaurant that was downstairs in the theater, and I had my cornrows with my butterfly clips and my eyebrow ring, still have the scar. And I went
we all
down and I was
do.
like, it's really nice to meet you, sir, and whatever. And he was like, it's nice to meet you too. And that was kind of it. And I was crushed because he didn't tell me that I was amazing and that like I needed to go to New York with him immediately. And so I thought that was over. My dreams were over. And then, so that was the summer of 2001. It was the summer before my senior year. And then I got a call a little bit in that fall from, I didn't get the call actually. My mom got the call. I was at school and my mom had come to the school and she's like hysterical. And I was like, what? I thought somebody had died. We had like lost a lot of people that year. And she's like, Broadway called. Now, we didn't know anything at the time.
Broadway.
We didn't know anything. We didn't, I just thought there was like a corporation that sat
Broadway.
on Times Square. That was Broadway. And they make all like, hello, do you want to be on a Broadway show? Well, come on down.
You're a star.
Exactly.
You're a star.
Come on down. We got a show
love
for you
that.
right now. And so, so we called back. And of course, knowing now it was Brett Adams that had called. He had seen me in the show that summer, and Hairspray at the time was, I think they were doing, this might be right around the time that they were either getting ready to do their out of town in Seattle or they had just done it. But he was like, there's a show coming out. We think you'd be really perfect for it. Would you come to New York? Would you audition for it? And I was like, yeah. So I told all of my friends that I was leaving to go be on Broadway.
Of course.
Naturally, like you do. I was like, see you losers, like I'm out of here. And then
As good friends do.
as you do, and then nothing happened. It just like went radio silence for like a good month or so. So all my friends were like, she made it up and whatever. It's like a miserable time. And
Well,
then,
I think that's one thing that's really different because the future guests that we've had with film and television, I feel like you get to know your future a little bit sooner than theater, where you can audition for theater and then months and months and months later, you get the offer. With film and television, they'll bring you back in,
Right.
But then you'll finally get the offer and be like, What?
Yeah.
How did? Yeah.
Yep.
So for the listeners out there,
So yeah, I mean, it was a very arduous process, and this was just the beginning, unfortunately. So the long short of it is that they ended up basically saying, look, they're gonna go with the girl they've been using in the workshop, Marissa.
Yeah.
But the show is slated to be a massive hit. Hadn't even opened yet, and they were like, there's gonna be a tour, so stay tuned. And this around the time I was trying to decide what I was gonna do with my life. I was kind of getting ready to graduate, but like, I was not really like close to graduating because I had like 82 absences my first semester of my senior year, and things were really bad. It was bad.
Great.
And well,
What were you doing during those? Were you
I was liking a lot of boys.
okay? I had to ask. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's a
It was a
lot of
it
days.
was a real rebellious time for me. This rebellion theme plays on for quite some time, however. So I had to kind of make this decision. Like, was I going to try to take these courses, because I was taking online courses to try and get this final couple credits I needed. And then, I had gotten accepted to go to Western Michigan University. And I was like, am I going to go there, or am I just going to do it? And so I kind of flipped a coin and decided I was going to go to New York. And I threw a fake graduation party and told everyone that I graduated early.
Oh, great.
And took that money and I moved to New York with it.
and they believed you again, even after the first Broadway lie that
Yeah.
they thought you told them the
that
lie.
means
Yeah.
you are connected to your craft.
Yeah.
You were going for
I
it.
had met this guy, Leonard, when I was doing Crash Nation. He had moved to New York. He was a couple years older than I was. I won't reveal your age, love. But he had moved to New York, and he was the only person I knew there. And so I went and I moved in with him. And we lived in a tiny studio on 103 in Manhattan, and we ate fried rice every day. I had like $1,000. That was it. And so we split rent and we lived there. And that's when I first started auditioning for the tour. And that was in the fall of 2002. The show had just opened.
You went with $1,000
Yeah.
to New York.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, and I wasn't even 18 at the time, so
That's
I
like
couldn't
a
get a
week.
job. Like I could,
That's like 1 week in New York.
I made it work for 6 months.
Wow.
Because we split like $600 to live in this, so we each paid $300. Like we made it work.
It's amazing.
And so I started auditioning for the show in August of 2002, and the show had just opened. And then I had 10 auditions over 6 months where they just kept vetting us. And there was like 16 of us, and then it was down to like 12, and 8, and 4. And so finally, when we got down to it, it was myself, Kayala Settle,
Who
Kathy
is
Breyer.
now- Kayala was the beard lady in
Yep. And The Greatest
Greatest
Showman.
Showman.
Also Tony nominee for Hands on Hard Body, Priscilla, a lot of things. So it was myself, Kayala, Kathy Breyer from One Life to Live, and Bat Boy and things like that, and Shannon Durig, who ended up doing the show. And so we all kind of knew at that point that we were all going somewhere, because there was a tour that was happening. They were going to need a Tracy and an understudy, and Marissa was leaving, and they were going to need a Tracy and an understudy. We just didn't know where. And so I got the call that I was doing the tour and that I was chosen to be Tracy. And so Kayala ended up being my understudy, and then Kathy went to New York because she was doing One Life to Live at the time, so she was doing double duty. So I was on the tour for about 6 months.
Wait,
and
and I just want to go back because you were still 16.
No.
How old were
I
you
was
at this-
18.
You were 18.
I was
this
18.
time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was 18. And so then we went on the tour, and I was slated to be on the tour for a year, but they pulled me off about 6 months into the run because Kathy was leaving for whatever reason. It's not my business. And they wanted me to come to New York. So I left the tour and went to New York, and I had my Broadway debut when I had just turned 19. In 2004.
Do you remember that moment? What was that like?
You know, it's so funny. I was so naive. I do, but it was like, it was all happening so fast, and it was all so surreal, and it was so strange. So like, I remember there had been like, Ben Brantley's here, and I didn't know who Ben Brantley was. I was like, oh my God, is that your uncle? Like, I like didn't know who that was.
Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben.
Because they were like so excited that he was there, and I'd never heard of him before. And they're like, no, that's the reviewer for the New York Times. Because what they had done when Michael and I came in the show, when Harvey and Marissa left first, and then Kathy came in. So when Harvey and Kathy both left, they reopened the show with Michael McKean and myself, and and incidentally re-reviewed the show. That's how I got my New York Times review. So they like kind of
pressure.
shut it down for like a second, and then they like revamped it and reopened it. Yeah, but it's just the thing. I miss being that age, you guys. I miss being that age so much because I wasn't scared of fucking anything.
I
Like,
agree.
I'm just turned 34. Like everything I'm like, oh God, I don't know. Should I try? I don't need a Xanax. Like I can't.
Yes,
There's
it's very strange.
Too many bumps and bruises and scrapes and disappointments and things along the way. I think the older you get, the more protective you get and sort of guarded and
realistically, physically, you're not quite as resilient either.
Right.
So like I was never afraid of heights growing up, for example.
Oh,
now,
no, yeah.
now I've got like vertigo. Like I can't I can't stand near the edge of something.
get it.
I feel like I'm gonna get sucked off the side. It's
no,
weird.
or you'll jump. You're like, I'm like,
it's so weird.
I can't take the stress. Well, with Tommy and I, when we started at around that age as well, 19, and then like I'm thinking about some of the moments that we had being on that stage in front of like thousands and thousands of people,
and sometimes it hits
and
you.
then being like, "Ugh, it's not sold out.
Right,
Like, just
right,
what are
right.
you crazy? Now looking back, now this is good. Going into that too. Is there like a moment, like so we call it the aha moment, obviously because we stole it from Oprah because we're not that original.
That's okay.
But like one of those moments where you're like, holy shit, this is my life. Like, how did this happen? Like just like a moment of.
So it wasn't the first appearance, clearly, based on what you said. But at some point it's going to hit you, right?
To be honest with you, being in that bubble for and so intense it is, and it is a bubble, especially in musical theater and especially in New York. It really hits me more now that because it's been 15 years, right?
Yeah.
Since I did the show, and which I already said my age. I was like, which fuck you. I'm not good at math or memory, I guess. I forgot that I said my age.
What's math?
It's adorable. It's now. It's the reactions that I get from people now when they're like, "You're Tracy Turnblad in Hairspray." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I guess I did do that thing." Like, it's always been this part of my history in a way that I've talked about it almost like it happened to someone else. And I'm sure you can kind of relate to that, where you're like, "Yeah, I was." I don't know. I guess it didn't. It's what's the weirdest part of it was it felt like that was the beginning,
right?
In a way, so it was like my life will just always be this way now.
Yes.
That's kind of how my brain.
Okay, great.
Right. This is what
Next.
my brain thought, as opposed to like, wow, this moment and this opportunity
Soak it in
and this thing,
and be in that moment.
You don't have the capability or the wherewithal or the self-awareness to be that present in the moment at 18. You're just like, yeah, I'm like fucking famous now, so like cool. You're an asshole. And
it took at least for me, it took a while. And like I mentioned to you, it was Jones Beach, and it was just something about the moment with the crowd there.
Jones Beach is a cool.
The
They have
fog,
the amphitheater.
and Jones Beach is dope, right?
It's cool.
Yeah.
And it's just like a wall of people there, and then the fog, and then it just
that was your moment.
that was my moment.
Yeah.
I almost
It was a good moment.
I mean, my first performance on Broadway was pretty fucking dope. I mean, it was, it's so interesting too with Hairspray because the curtain, the orchestra's playing and then the curtain opens and it's just you on stage in that little bed. And it was the first time that when the opening happened, the audience had cheered because it wasn't something that they did on the road for whatever reason. And it was like, the lights hit and all of a sudden the audience applauded, and that had never happened before.
And you're standing upstage center.
Yeah.
Looking like you're in a bed.
And they weren't applauding me. It was just like, it's a Broadway show and everyone was very excited. And it was, but it was, for me, that was a big moment. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And then all the crazy starts to kick in, right?
Yes.
Because here comes the insecurity, here comes the anxiety attacks, here comes all of these little fun buzzwords and things that I'd never even heard of before growing up. Like, I'd always just been described as like a high-strung child.
Yeah.
But like now as an adult, like having been like, yeah, I have full-blown anxiety, and like it's a thing, it's a real thing in my life that I battle, and it's so weird that moment of happiness like just didn't last that long. It's sad to me to think back that like that little moment, like it was like a spark of like, oh my God. And then all the other bullshit and politics and everything, like it don't take long for that to set in.
Yeah. And going back to the Broadway bubble, and so that is it's heightened with all of that like drama and unnecessary drama sometimes, most of the time.
Yeah.
Where it's just people like insecurities, I think, in my opinion, correct me if you don't agree, but I think the insecurities are much more heightened in the theater
Well,
scene.
here's the major difference, right? In TV, there's no threat of somebody taking your job, right? It's your job.
Yes.
That makes
You know what I mean?
that makes
Like,
total sense.
So in theater, they create this whole like it's that Abby Lee Miller, where she's like everyone's replaceable kind of thing, right? Not that people aren't replaceable, but it's a different thing.
Choreographers
Like
on Broadway have told me that.
Well, if you miss a show and your understudy goes on, and God forbid they do something different that gets a laugh or they're better than you or whatever, that's like the ultimate fear, right?
That could be it.
Then that could be it. And so it's just it breeds a different type of competitiveness amongst your peers that you just really don't have in television. Because in television, it's so specific. I don't compete with anybody else but myself because nobody does. I do what I do and they do what they do. You either want this or you want that, right? But in theater, things are a little bit more broad. And so you are forced to be really competitive with your peers. And it gets nasty. Yeah. It was part of the reason I left, TBH. I was like, you are not paying me enough fucking money for this. I'm working. It's the hardest work you'll ever do for the least amount of money.
Yeah.
And once I came here and I was like, you want to pay me what?
You want to pay? Huh? I have a union. What?
And there's food anytime I want it. What?
Craft services?
What?
Yes, please.
I don't have a ton of experience in theater. Like Eric, obviously you do.
Yes.
So like listen to this, but it makes complete sense. And I saw Showgirls, so I get it. Like that's
No, so
right?
then you know.
Yeah.
Now you're an expert.
I'm an expert.
You should
because of
basically
that.
just like teach classes about it.
I could.
I'm not going to hate on Showgirls. It's
the best.
One of my favorite movies of all time.
I think it might be top 6. I think it might be 6 of my top 10.
Yeah.
Oh, which would be a fun thing to talk about some other time.
Some other time.
Well, so like, what was like the final? Because you talked about your first show, and then what was it like when you put a period at the end of that entire run and your last show? Was it
With that show?
I think that's Hairspray specifically.
Yeah. I had done it for so long at that point. It had been over 2 years. I was really tired. I developed nodes. Like I said, the rebellious thing kind of comes back into picture a little bit. It was a really bittersweet journey for me because I had to sort of discover who I was in under the microscope and be judged for my choices in growing and evolving as a human along the way. And I can't say that I passed all of those tests. I just didn't. I didn't make great choices all the time, and I didn't always do the right thing. And those have been demons that I've had to live with and deal with, even in my adult life. Even now, and it's taken me years to finally be like, you were a kid. Like I was just so rebellious. I was really into drugs. I just wanted to party. I loved this opportunity that I had, but at the same time, I felt beholden to it, and it felt like I felt trapped, and I was scared, and I didn't know how to say I was scared because I was 18, and you never admit that you don't know what you're doing.
You know
so
everything.
I wouldn't.
Yes, of course.
Absolutely. And so, nobody could tell me anything, and it just like the partying became the biggest outlet for me to be able to release. And so I did, and that got carried away, and it impeded upon me being able to do my job correctly. And then of course people had things to say about that, and there were rumors that were spread, and there was a lot of things that were said that weren't true. Some of it was, like, I'm not gonna hold you up. Some of it was.
Some of it's true.
I'm really glad that I didn't live. This wasn't during the time of Facebook and cell phones were grainy as shit. You could be like, that won't hold up in a court of law. That ain't me. And you're like, your flip phone thing.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, that's not me dancing on the bar at Lotus falling off. That wasn't me. You can't prove it.
No Twitter.
You can't even see who that is.
No Instagram.
No.
Yeah, that would have been dangerous back
Yeah.
then. I mean,
The Nokia can only do so much.
She can only do my little Catan, my little...
it looks like a cartoon, essentially, those
Yeah.
videos,
Yeah. It's pixelated as shit.
It's just Snake.
Yeah, it's just Snake.
It's just Snake.
It's just Snake. So it was hard. It was bittersweet for me, and I was really ill when it was time to go. And part of it just from doing, it's a rigorous.
The
show.
role of Tracy Turnbladder, they're
how long is the show?
It's about 2 hours and 45 minutes with intermissions, like 2.5. And Tracy is off stage for about 10 minutes of the show.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's her show. She takes you through the whole thing. Timeless to Me, which is a number that the two parents sing together, is the only number she's not in.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Now, something we didn't plan on talking about this, but last episode actually we got a little advice from one of the actors that was on, and we're asking when you have a ton of stuff to memorize, what tricks do you use?
You know, I don't have any tricks. I'm really lucky in that way that like I have a pretty good memory. Music for me has always stuck with me. So I tell people like if you're musically inclined at all, try to sing these things to yourself. Make it rhythmic in a way that it can sit in your body. You know what I mean? In almost a choreographed muscle memory kind of way. And also here's another thing I always tell people. I always know for me, if material is good, I can usually memorize it right away because it makes sense.
Right.
It speaks pedestrian. If it's hard to memorize, I'm usually like, this is terribly fucking written. Like,
It doesn't feel natural.
Like,
this isn't for me.
Yeah.
This is someone else.
Usually if I can't get into it, I'm really struggling with something.
Yeah.
I feel like then it's just not sitting with me. Now, that's not to say don't.
Yeah.
You know, do it. But music is a big one for me. I always try to, I had a huge 3-page monologue I had to do this season in the guest book. And I was so stressed about it. And I broke it down in segments. Like I was like, okay, this is the story. And then it goes here and then I'd memorize those individual segments and then I'd put them together and then.
So kind of the moments.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Like just think about what you're talking about and like what story you're telling and how you would tell that story to somebody.
Yeah.
Think if it's your story and it happened to you, how would you, and then you can get word specific later. It can be than, other than, it just depends on what kind of writers you have too. Because some of them,
paraphrasing is
some of them don't
the
care.
devil.
Some of them are like, it's
verbatim.
the.
It's the,
Yeah.
And you're like,
Oh, gosh.
Jesus, okay.
So you mentioned
this is
you mentioned the guest book.
Sorry.
And we definitely want to get to that, but I'm curious now. So Hairspray ends. Obviously, there's a long time period between then and now.
Yeah.
Can you kind of take us through your journey?
Yeah.
Like what was your next?
Well, you went to another Broadway show.
I
Next
did.
step, yeah.
So I went to Cry Baby, which was another John Waters show, just by happenstance, and because I knew some of the creatives.
You
and
guys
they had
related?
asked me.
Is that how you're getting all that
I
way?
wish I was related to John. I'm
Right?
like, God, could you imagine what Christmas would be like?
Every day would be Christmas.
Every day
I want to
would
know.
be
I want to know
Christmas.
your picture for Christmas. Like what's under the tree or next to the tree?
I don't know. He used to tell me the most amazing stories about he met this guy in a bar once, John did, and he said he sold deer meat for crack for a living. That's like just what people love to just tell him random things.
Yeah.
It's my favorite. He's one of the
Venison
most
for crack.
incredible men on the face of the planet. So sweet and so approachable. People think, because he's his movies and whatever, he's just like the most precious and kind man ever.
Very cool.
So Hairspray ends. I take a little time off, and then I do Cry Baby, which was a short-lived AF. We worked on that show on and off for 5 years, and from open to close, we were open for like 2 months.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, we did 6 weeks of previews, and we were open for 2 months. She was
Well, you got that Tony
grand
money.
opening, grand closing. Yeah, we got I didn't.
You didn't get to do the Tonys?
Well, listen to this bullshit. So the number that they chose to do on the Tonys was the all-male tap number, what they do with the
yeah.
license plates, the prison jailbreak number. And so I was mad I was like, are you serious?
So it's like one of the only ones that you.
Of
I'm so
course.
mad.
Wow.
But yeah, so I did that show, and then I took a little time off. And in the meantime, I had been working on this show for a really long time and helping develop called Fat Camp, which had tooled around New York on and off Broadway for like almost 10 years. I went with this show, and we went out of town in Cleveland, Ohio.
The Mistake by the Lake?
Yeah, the Mistake by the also a town also known as like walk in pairs, like never walk alone.
Yes.
Travel in pairs.
I thought you meant like people were like actually walking pear-shaped for a second.
Oh my God, that's walking pairs.
No,
That's what I originally went. But
you're-
I
walking
kind of
pairs?
like that too.
Walk-in
Sorry,
pair
that's where
suits.
my brain went.
All of the Midwest is walking pairs. I mean, I'm from the Midwest. Like, I got it.
That's a story for John Waters.
That's amazing. Oh, I love that. So I'd kind of been tooling that around, and then I started. After Cry Baby ended, I was like, I'm done with this. And I got into a relationship, and everything was magical. And then everything was not magical. And I went into a real deep, dark place for a minute. And then I wrote, which I hate both of these words, cabaret and one woman show, because it's like, if I have to sit through another one of these. But I did. It was called Not a Bitch, Not Yet a Woman. I was 25.
Excellent.
And it was like an anti-cabaret. It was all rock music, and we had 10 people packed on little Joe's Pub stage.
Yeah,
and
I love Joe's Pub.
Oh man,
Chicago, right? Is it Joe's?
in
No,
New
Joe's
York.
Pub. But okay, there is
Yeah.
one in Chicago. Too, I think.
Is there?
Anyway, I don't know theater.
There probably
Never mind.
is.
Maybe.
I made it up.
No, I bet we could Google it. I bet there is. And so I did this show, and it was my chance to sort of come out and tell the truth about all of the rumor spreading, things that had gone on for a really long time for the past like 7 years of my career. And so I told the truth. I told the truth about my drug addiction and the night I went into the hospital and getting help with that and my breakup and just all of my stuff. Because I was like, here's the tea. At the end of the day, like, you guys can run your mouths all you want, but like, I'll give you the truth. But like, what better way to tell the truth than to make people pay to listen to you talk about it? So I was like, here it is. So that was maybe one of the most liberating things that I ever did in my whole life up until that point. I felt really free of all of it, and I was like, "Here it is, it's yours."
So
I don't want to
it was
carry it
therapy,
anymore.
and you were getting paid.
Yeah.
So-
It was amazing. It was really
as it should.
amazing.
Yeah.
So after we did that, that was really the moment that I realized that musical theater just wasn't going to be for me anymore. I was thankful for it. I was grateful for it. It gave me a sense of discipline and education that you cannot buy. But it just wasn't for me. I wasn't a lifer. And so I started writing, and I wrote an album, and then I recorded an album, and then I started producing concerts. And so myself and Katie Thompson and Lena Hall, who you, back when I knew her, she was Selena Carvajal.
Yep.
And
Tony Award winner Lena Hall.
yeah, and so it was and Katie Thompson. If you don't know Katie Thompson, you
everybody
need to
do it
know
now.
Katie Thompson's music.
She's ridiculous.
I always say that when she sings, it sounds like her vocal folds are fucking.
Yeah.
Because it's just so sensual and amazing.
I mean, all three of those women.
Casey Chic was the fourth.
Those women are just like have the best voices on the planet. It's really quite fantastic. Anybody Google watch, because I remember watching all of you guys sing at one point and just mouth on the floor. And I've seen some singing bitches in my life. You know what I mean?
We
and
did.
It's just
We came up with
so
this idea.
amazing.
It was called Headliners, and we've always wanted to revisit it. But the premise of it was that there was four of us, and I did like country, southern rock, and Katie does soul and sort of, and then Casey Chic's more folky and stuff like that, and then of course Selena is just like a rock screaming metal god.
Originals or
And so we would do half originals, and so we do 2 originals and 2 covers each, but we would stay on stage the entire time and play and sing in each other's sets, so it would feel like a jam session that you're a part of, and it was called Headliners. So everyone took their point to go up and do their thing, and then we all participated in each other's thing.
What an amazing experience. To be with your peers.
Oh, so
talented peers.
and people that you just love and you're supportive, and so everybody, people sold their merch and whatever, and so we did that, and we had plans to do big things with it, and then my mom got sick, and so I went. She got diagnosed with cancer, and I went home to Michigan to be with her in 2012. This was like right as this was all coming to an apex. So I did Crybaby in 2008, and then Fat Camp throughout those years. I did Not a Bitch in 2009, Fat Camp again in 2010, the album in 2011, leading up into the concert producing, whatever, and then my mom got sick. So I went home to Michigan to be with her, and originally the plan was like, get her on chemo, she'll be fine, life goes back to normal, and life just had different plans for us, and so I stayed with her the full 2 years that she battled, and then she lost her battle in the winter of 2013. And it was probably the most important and cathartic 2 years of my life, just because I am so grateful for the time that we got to spend together. And I got to objectively step away from this industry for a moment and really understand what is fucking important.
yeah.
It gets to be so overwhelming sometimes. You become so quantified as a human by what you're doing, and you really take for granted that all of these other things will just be there when you're ready for them. And realizing that we had this ticking clock on our time together, and I'll never regret the time I spent going home. It was harder for me to bounce back career-wise because stepping out of the light for that long, people fucking forget you.
Especially when you've got momentum.
Yeah.
You know, and you step away.
You know, but it just I care. You know, it just like none of it mattered at that point. So when she passed, I knew I didn't want to go back to New York because that didn't feel. I knew I just didn't want to go back into theater. I didn't want to get stuck back into that. And I had a couple screen tests under my belt at that point with a few things throughout the years. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to give LA a try. Like, I'm just going to go and see what happens. I was only going to come out for pilot season. So 3 months after my mom died, I moved out here.
Did you come with $1,000 again, or did you?
No, came with a little more.
You brought a little more.
But I didn't know anybody out here. I had like a few acquaintances that I knew from New York or whatever, but I didn't really have any friends out here.
Yeah.
And I was just going to be out here for pilot season, and that was almost 5 years ago, and I stayed.
You got stuck.
Wow.
Yeah, 5 years ago this February.
What was the first thing you booked? Do you remember?
The first year was like a little just trying to get my footing and had a few auditions. I did Scream, the musical, at the Rockwell. I've known Kate Pazakis for a bazillion and 4 years when she worked at the Duplex down in New York. And she was running the Rockwell and asked me if I wanted to do this show. I was doing a web series called 90027, the Los Feliz thing with my friend Jake Wilson and a bunch of wonderfully talented people. And we were filming at the Rockwell, and I saw Kate, and I was like, I've seen you a million years. And she asked me to do Scream, and I was like, I don't know, I'm not trying to do theater. That's not what I came out here for. But I did not know at the time that the Rockwell is what it is here.
Yeah.
Like, I just thought, like, I'm not trying to do a cabaret show in some fucking bar, like the Dime a Dozen in New York. Like, I'm not trying to do that. But then she was like, well, Sarah Hyland's doing it. And I was like, oh, for real? I was like, okay, well, that sounds like it's a thing. And it ended up being one of the smartest choices. I can't plug the Rockwell enough. It ended up being one of the smartest choices I ever made because the visibility that it got me here, it got me so many generals. Incidentally, one of the generals that I got was for TBS TNT with Mike Page and Alexa.
What's a general?
So generals basically are like, you go in, you're not necessarily auditioning, but you'll meet with networks and you'll just talk to them. You are fucking auditioning. Like, who are we kidding? But you're not like,
actually reading. Did you have to read sides and anything? So
no, I didn't have to do anything like that. But you are auditioning. But like, you basically have 10 to 20 minutes to go in and be really charming and show them and make them see dollar signs.
Exactly.
Right? And they're like, so where'd you from? Where'd you grow up? And you're like, here's all my bags of tricks and my best jokes and everything I've got. And oh my God. You know what I mean? So it's just like,
love me.
Did you have an agent before you came here?
I did. The same. So Brad Adams, who had discovered me back in Michigan, was my agent up until moving out here. And we parted ways, which was a very difficult decision to make. But they're only in New York and they're mainly theater. And it just made sense. And it was a very, very hard choice to make. I love them all so dearly. But so I had a manager that I had been working with out here kind of freelance, who's still my manager to this day. And so he, you know, to his credit, he was the one who was pushing getting me in these rooms when people were like, she was on Broadway how many years ago? Like, what?
Right.
And he was like, you have to see her though. Like, you just have to see her. And so
it's nice to have somebody in your corner.
That's what he did for to get you on today.
I did.
I was like, I don't know.
This bitch.
You got to tell me more.
And I was
you got to tell me more.
You just have to see her.
I love that. Oh, well, I also suck dick. If I'm just kidding. I'm 34. I don't suck dick anymore. Who am I lying to?
I'm tearing up a little bit.
So it took me a little bit. It took me a little bit of time to get some momentum, and so doing Scream was amazing. It got me a lot of visibility. And so I started taking generals and I got down to the wire on a bunch of different projects, and it just was about waiting for the right, you know, it's like the planets have to align. Yeah. Like it has to be the right role at the right time, and they have to be in the right mood. And like, you can't have a name of a girl that they dated in high school that dumped them. Like,
it's that, it comes down to that.
It's playing the lottery for a living.
It really
that's what I tell people. I'm like, that's what we do. We play the lottery for a living. There's no guarantee. Yeah. Even when look, I'm in the second season. We just filmed the second season. It's about to come out of the show.
The guest book.
With
my favorite character name of all time.
Tickles.
Tickles, the stripper.
Yeah.
It's just it makes
Tickles.
me laugh. Just Tickles. What a great name.
I know, it's so good.
So good.
But like even that, like, you're never comfortable. Like there's at no point, because you never know what could happen. Like,
So talk about how was that audition like with TBS with Tickles?
So-
so you'd go and you do the generals. And,
Yeah.
and that was with
so
TBS.
when the show actually came out, when the breakdown came out, it was interesting because it actually called for at the time. So breakdowns basically come out and they say like what they're looking for. So for example, for this one, it said. That's right, I had a burp. It said, fucking vodka, like early in the morning. I was holding in for a long
Magic
time, but like,
water.
I mean, it's like, give up the ghost. She's not a lady. Who cares?
Magic water.
So it'll say like 30s to 40s, open to all ethnicities, or sometimes it'll say like, Asian or whatever it is they're looking for, and then it'll have a description of the character.
Right.
So this originally was calling for an older woman, Black or Latino, originally, and so I thought, oh, I'm not getting this. Like, what are they throwing me in the mix for? Like. But my manager was like, just go, because the casting directors really, they think you're going to be their wild card and whatever. And I was like, okay. And it was for Greg Garcia. So Greg Garcia created My Name is Earl and Raising Hope and Yes Dear, and like just so funny and sort of dark and sardonic. And I'm a big fan. So I went, and the audition, I didn't think that it actually went that well, to be honest. I kind of walked out and I was like, well, good luck. Because like, I don't know what you want. And
That's always the case.
And then I got a call back for the next day, and I went in, and they gave me like the weirdest notes. They were like, they really want to shoot this, which is funny because we didn't end up shooting this like Fargo at all. But they like, I really want it to be like more like Fargo. So like, just really like keep everything really grounded and really. And I was like, I don't know what that means.
Just have fun.
Which is funny because
Just have
Tickles
fun with
couldn't
it.
be further from being grounded.
I know, exactly.
Like I'm just a walking cartoon version of a human. So I was like, okay. So I went in and I was like, I mean, I don't know what you want. And so I just sort of like gave all of the lines, like just sort of like that, like a Law and
deadpan.
Order
Yeah,
audition,
okay.
where like, where like you don't move your face, you just say the lines and then you book it.
Good to know.
Order.
Hey, hint.
Secrets.
I'm not kidding.
Secrets.
Everyone's like, what's the secret to the Pier? What is it? Where was it? Always down in Chelsea. It's like Pier 29 or something like that.
We're always filming Law and Order. Someone's dead in the water.
But
floating.
I've been in for them so many times. I never book it. But that's what my friend Nikki James told me. She goes, just don't move, don't do anything. Just walk in, dead stare at them and say the lines and you'll book it. I was like, okay, girl. But like, it didn't work for me, Nikki.
You
I was
moved
like,
too
I
much.
did that. I scared them, I think. They were like,
Are you
Okay.
are you alive?
Yeah.
Are you playing for the body or?
yeah. They're like, you actually don't have any lines. You should have your eyes closed.
Just close your eyes,
You're
please.
dead.
So funny.
And I'm like, did I book it? Did I get it? Just like
Oh
terrifying.
my god, I almost just had a spit take. Don't make me laugh when I just drink water.
Don't make me laugh.
Don't do it.
So I got a call back the next day. I went in and I and so then I found out that I had a screen test, and it's like, here you go. Like, this is where it gets really stressful because. So a little fun fact about before you go in to do a screen test, you negotiate your contract and all of the things that would go into place should you become employed ahead of time. And this is basically put in place to protect them so that if you do get it, you can't be like, I want more money.
Well, I was
You
gonna say, but
negotiate-
doesn't that play against you? I mean,
Of course it does.
clearly does.
But everything plays against you as an actor.
As the
you
actor.
have no power.
None.
You are literally nothing. Unless you've literally become an A-list name that people can't do anything without, you're a pawn. And it just is what it is. You have to play their game.
Yeah.
So you do this contract and you're looking at this money that's basically like what, life altering and the potential to change your life forever. And then you sign it and everybody signs it and you give it to them and they either put it in the shredder or they put it into action. And you give it to them moments before you go into the room. So it's like a whole other added level. And people file in and, you sit in this thing and it's all the suits. It's the network. It's the studio. It's everybody that's going to make the decision. And it's like the Olympics. It's like you train and you train and you train and you train, but it only matters
Yep.
if you stick the landing this one time.
Right.
That landing.
And so it's really intense and you have to do everything you can to not psych yourself out, to not have a full-blown fucking panic attack.
Oh my god,
to
I'm feeling it right now.
It's
like,
a
it's
whole
all PTSD
thing.
right now.
Well, and this is where my anxiety comes to like a full-blown thing because I have such my anxiety is not so bad in auditions. It's worse. Like my anxiety becomes worse after the minute they tell me that I got it.
Yeah, because now you they believe in you.
And
Right.
now you have to
Now
live
I
up
don't
to
want to
that.
let people down,
Right,
right?
yeah,
Like
right.
I have this whole
let
thing
me-
about letting. Yeah,
Don't let me down.
it's the theme of today. So it's really weird. So you go in and then you fully, if you're anything like me, you fully black out and you remember nothing, but words came out of your mouth somehow. Then you leave, and it's walking out of that door is the best feeling in the world because you're like, I did it.
Done.
It's like being in a New York summer walking into an air conditioned
Yeah,
room.
you're like,
it's like, ah.
it's over, and then you're ready to have a big old cigarette and a cocktail and just wait to see what happens. And they're like, can you come back in for a second? And you're like, no. You're like, no.
Is that what happened here with this?
Well, I ended up, we were all there together. So there was 2 of us that were up for the role of Tickles / Vivian. And there was 3 guys that were up for another role and 3 guys that were up for another role of the 3 leads. And so they started chemistry testing us. So they started pulling. So then it just kind of got like a little, like the nerves died down a little bit because then it was a whole new thing. You're like, oh, now I got to read with this person and everybody does it differently.
I would think would feel better because you have somebody else
Yes.
to actually
It is a
connect
little bit
with
better.
and to
Right.
be a part of that.
And then my competitive side kicks in. Like that's when I get a little like, especially if they laugh at something that they do, I'm like, oh really? Oh okay. But yeah, so it was really intense. And then I walked out of there. I didn't know how to feel. I didn't know what to think. And then I got the call from Greg Garcia the next day that I booked it, and I couldn't.
Greg
just-
Garcia himself.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, is it like what Broadway called? Or
Yeah.
like Greg Garcia.
Broadway call.
It's a little unorthodox, but
so funny.
usually your representatives call your reps call you, but for whatever reason he's like, I wanted to call and tell you yourself, and I swore at him and told him to shut the fuck up like 4 times. I couldn't believe it. I was crying, I was screaming, and I told him that if he was lying to me that I would punch him in the dick. He'll tell you that's true.
And
that's really what happened. I was like, if
then
you were fucking with me, dude, I will punch you in the dick. And he's like, I am not fucking with you.
And Tickles was born.
And Tickles was born.
There's Tickles.
Yeah.
I think it is time, Tommy.
I think it's time too.
I think it's time.
I think it's time.
What is it? I am.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Drum roll, please.
7 questions, 7 questions, 7 questions before you win.
Oh, answer 4 and I win?
Yes.
Well, you have to answer them correctly.
Oh, got
Yes.
it. Okay.
You can't just answer them.
So, we're very excited about 7
That's- you
questions.
gotta be the
It's got to be correct.
Tommy.
Wait, are they like trivia? Are they hard?
You'll see. Yeah, they're really hard.
Don't make me
they're
look
fine.
stupid.
Don't. That's the whole point. There's no way. So you are playing today for a vintage. I forgot to bring it. No Authority T-shirt.
Oh, I want that.
So my mom just found a bunch in the attic.
It has his face on it.
So it has and has his face on it too. So
Our faces are on it.
faces are on it.
Okay.
So this is what you're playing for.
They're a little sleeker. We were a
If
little
I
younger.
don't win, can I have one anyway?
Sure.
Okay.
All right.
You just better just have fun with it, as they say, right?
Just have
Do you want-
fun.
Just have fun with it. Do you want me to start?
Up to you.
Okay.
Up to you.
All right. What was
Uh-huh.
the #1 song in America the day the first national tour of Hairspray debuted, September 2003?
Oh shit.
Think about the CDs.
Oh my god. I don't
You
know.
see, earlier you seemed very good at remembering dates
Yeah, right.
and time and time frames. So
Well, it opened on my mom's birthday in Baltimore,
Which was
September 17th.
September 17th.
So I remember that, but the number one song at the time, I want to say,
Impressive.
let's just say,
okay, let's give you a hint.
I-
Let's give you.
Go ahead. I got
you
what
have a
you
good hint?
need if you're into doing drugs.
The Club.
In the club.
Nice.
That was the #1 song.
Could I be any whiter? I was like, the Club.
In
the
the
club.
club.
In the Club.
In the club.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Excellent. Okay, one of one.
One of
That's a
one.
really fucking hard. That better not be like a.
No.
Okay.
No.
One of what you got it.
You got it.
So
Yeah.
you're well on
One and
you're
one.
you're a quarter of the
Okay.
way to.
People have cussed at us
t-shirt.
for the question, so don't worry.
That's
You're-
really
you did the best out
hard.
of everybody.
So yeah, you're doing great.
It's like, what's my dad's middle name?
Just guess.
We almost, yeah, go ahead. Question number 2.
Okay, when googling your name, what is the most Google related question about you?
Pregnant?
So out of the top 8, this was the 4 of them of the top 8 that I researched.
Hairspray?
No, so Google your name. But what's the next related question about you? What do you think? Because if you don't know, I think it's hilarious.
Drunk? Is she drunk?
They want to know how tall you are.
Oh.
Yeah, all of them was like, how tall is Carly Jibson? How tall is Tickles? There's so many about your height.
Oh.
Why? Why is that? Do you think?
I don't know.
Yeah, I was fascinated by that.
Well, I am 5 foot exactly for inquiring minds.
You're taller
Lots
than my
of people
mom.
wanted
Yeah,
to know.
am I?
4'11".
I'm taller than
I said 5 foot. Did I say
toddlers.
that yesterday?
You
We're
did.
like,
You did say
I said, I
5
think
foot.
she's like
Yeah.
5 foot.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So-
well,
Oh,
then
wow, I didn't know that.
you might get a T-shirt
I
too.
like to-
Keep it up.
Oh, keep it up. Keep it up.
Have fun with
Okay,
it.
this one's fun. Oh, it's mine. Okay.
Yeah.
According to noisecreep.com, what are 3 of the top rock songs for strippers? Name 3 of the top 10.
3 of the top
Pour
10.
some sugar on me.
Yep.
It's got to be it. Girls.
Yep.
That's number 1.
And shit. I don't know. I can't think of I love strip clubs, by the way. I'm obsessed. Okay, pour some sugar on me. Girls. Hot for teacher?
You know what? That's what my friend said when I asked her the same thing, and that's not on top 10. But I think it should be.
It's not. It's not. But
you're
go
right
again.
there.
Go again. You're super
Think
close.
about food.
Oh, cherry pie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ding 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 ding.
You're doing awesome.
Woo!
You're doing very well. Okay.
Keep asking stripper questions.
So-
that I feel good about.
Well, this is why when we walked into the studio, I was like, skinny pop pop pop.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
like, don't do it. I was like, ugh, my head.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
so for those that want to know, the others are
According to noisecreep.com.
Oh, yeah.
according to noisecreep.com, they're top 10. Girl Money, Unskinny Bop. I don't know what Girl Money is. American Woman,
Sure.
Cherry Pie,
Sure.
Pour Some Sugar on Me, Bad Girlfriend, Shaking Hands, Crazy Bitch,
Sure.
Sure,
I
right,
should have
right.
known that one.
Porn Star Dancing. Don't know that one.
Yeah, I didn't know.
And
There's
the
some I
number
didn't-
1 was Girls.
Yeah.
Got that one.
So anyway,
Nailed it.
Okay.
excellent job.
This one. I'm gonna go ahead and say this is a Tommy question. So go ahead, Tommy.
Is it? It's a me question. I guess
Yes.
it kind of is. Okay.
It is.
According to us, how many cats are on the musical Cats?
Oh. I'm really bad with musicals.
This is according to us, so we might accept anything you give.
18.
That's
close.
really
Yes.
close.
Well, actually, it was either 16 or 17.
Okay.
Depending on,
But we're gonna give you 18.
we'll give you
Ooh,
18.
Okay.
18.
You know, I've
Nice.
never seen Cats.
Don't.
I'm the worst musical theater person ever. I've really only seen the shows I've been in.
Cats is great.
Is there like a mirror and you watch yourself
Yeah.
in the show?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, yeah.
You just watch it
seen
back,
any
the
other-
recorded version.
I think you should do this one too.
You want me to? Yeah. Okay. All right.
Question number 5.
Question number 5. And this is kind of a how quickly can you name this influential celebrity, right? We're going to give you a series
facts.
of facts.
Okay.
Okay. First one. He's 6'2".
Did you get it? Do you got it?
Got it? You know who it is?
Okay.
You got it? You know the answer? You should know it by now.
Answer yet? I'm kidding. Just joking.
You guys,
That look. You
am I being timed?
You look
Because you're reading the
terrified.
questions really
Okay.
slow.
He took fashion advice from Little Richard.
Okay. 6'2" and took fashion advice from Little Richard. I definitely know who this is.
You do?
You do.
Like, okay.
He played a Simpsons character named John, whose physical appearance was loosely based on his real life appearance. She's going for the phone a friend option. I know.
Okay, keep going. I'm gonna
He created the controversial film Pink Flamingos with a budget of $10,000.
Sure. John Waters.
John Waters. And then the last one was he wrote Hairspray, you idiot.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So we have 4. Did she win the T-shirt already? Well, let's see if you get this.
I mean, I
one.
really like the questions. I'm not going to lie.
All right, question number 6.
We wrote these
What
yesterday.
specific name connects? Just a specific name connects the Dixie Chicks and the guest book creator Greg Garcia.
Oh, Earl.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well
Oh yeah. I was like, wait, this is coming to me. That's right. Okay.
I was proud of that one.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I think I mean, especially being by like you don't have a team, like you don't have other people helping you. You are
I'm like nervous for you.
I love game shows so much. I can't even like. I'm living my best life.
you
right
are
now.
doing amazing.
And the last question for 7 questions.
The last question, number 7. Question number 7.
Okay.
What was the number 1 song in America the day the Hairspray national tour closed?
June 2006.
Hips don't lie.
Are you kidding
No.
me? Yes.
No, it's
yes,
not.
it is.
Get out of here.
Yes, it's Hips Don't Lie.
I swear to God, that was like a crazy.
Yes.
Because I just remember
Well
that
done.
summer
That was
being like a
amazing.
big ass song.
Yes. You're the first one to ever get one without a hint.
Yep.
Congratulations.
No hint. You did. She gets 2 t-shirts.
2 t-shirts.
2
Oh my God,
t-shirts.
Gare Bear, you're getting one.
Gare Bear, you're getting a t-shirt.
And you're signing it.
Oh
as
my
well.
God, Ken, you guys both have to sign
Yeah,
it
yeah,
That is
fine,
crazy.
for sure.
That is excellent.
with
Well-
your dicks.
Well,
Absolutely.
it's like finger painting. It's just a little different.
It's more of a stamp.
It's a big finger.
than really- well, let's hope.
Oh wow.
Well, we are coming to the end of.
Usually this is where we start to kind of wrap up. But I have just your personality is hilarious.
thank you.
So I've got a question. Like,
Ask away.
do you do like signings? Have you been in signing situations where you're doing autographs?
No.
Okay, I've got to see you in one of those at some point because I want to see how you interact with the fans.
My biggest problem is with people is I tell them
Too
I tell
much.
them things that they didn't ask for.
Sure.
I recently ran into a girl at a bar who was like, "Oh my God, I loved you in the guest book." And One Mississippi was another one and I was like, "Oh my God, thank you." And we're talking whatever. And I just so happened to tell her about something that happened to me the weekend prior, which was so I went to RuPaul's Drag Race Drag Con.
Yes.
At the behest and the beautiful request of Rob, and we're speaking
now
on
Rob-
a panel.
just for
Rob
reference.
is my boyfriend.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yes.
And so I was speaking on this panel, this Broadway Divas panel, and it was like Cheryl Lee Ralph and Nikki Snelson,
Snelson.
Frankie Grande, and Alexis Michelle.
Alexis Michelle, who was a drag
And,
queen finalist, top 4 of season 8,
No,
season 9 of RuPaul's Drag Race, I believe. It doesn't
I don't
matter.
remember.
He's drag queen.
So we go, and so leading up to this, I am sick as a dog. I'm in production filming. I'm like ill, I'm dying. And so I went to the doctor and I was like, "You got to give me something because I got to get better. I got to get back to work." And so they gave me antibiotics, but like, you know how like normally you get antibiotics for like a 10-day or like even a 5-day, like a Sensible Z-Pack.
Yes.
This bitch gave me 3-day. So it was just full, like it was the harshest thing ever. And so when you're on antibiotics, as you know, it's mass exodus. It's an everything must go sale. Like it's full liquidation.
Total liquidation. I
it
like
is-
that.
It's just everything, whatever. So I started the antibiotics. The Drag Con panel was on Saturday, and I had started them on Wednesday. I thought I'm in the clear, so I took the last one on Friday. I was like, I woke up on Saturday. I feel like shit. I mean, I had cold sweats. I can't like my hair is crimping and in my weave and like all the things. It was bad. I couldn't get makeup to stay. I couldn't beat my face, so it's upsetting me because I was like, I'm gonna get clocked by a queen. It's like the last shit I need right now. And so it was just like a bad morning getting ready, but I couldn't bail because I didn't, again, want to let anybody down. And
Yeah.
so I was like, I gotta pull it together. So we go, I'm in heels. I don't even know how, we're walking around this convention center. I'm like shaking, but like I'm also drenched
You
in
got
sweat.
the sweats. Yeah.
So bad. And you're gonna die for this. You know it's coming. And I'm telling this poor girl this. That just wanted to tell. I'm telling her this whole story. All she wanted to do was tell me that she liked me in the show.
In her mind, like that's like you're that perfect character
That was
on
it.
the show.
It was a pit.
Right.
That's all she wanted to do. Was be like, I really like you. She was like, my Uber's here, and so so we're walking around the floor and whatever, and we're about we got like 20 minutes for the panel. I'm like, I can't wait to get this over with. Like, I just want to go home and go to bed. So we're standing there. My manager's getting a cocktail at the bar, and I'm standing there with my friend Jessie, and we're getting ready. And I I coughed because I'm sick, and I fully shit my pants. This is real. This really happened to me. So now I'm in a full state of panic because I was like, oh my God. And of all, the bathroom is 7 leagues away from me. I mean, it couldn't be further. You got to go up all these stairs. So I was like, oh my God, I don't know how bad it is. I don't really, I just don't know anything. So I looked at my friend Jesse, I go, I have to use the restroom. And
What color were you wearing?
I had dark blue jeans on and I had a
thank
black
God.
shirt
Had that
on.
going for you at least.
So I wasn't like in a white dress or something. And I go hauling ass up the fucking stairs to go to the bathroom. And that was right when, and I can't remember her name, but like the woman who put the whole event on, and I hadn't met her yet and I'd been corresponding with her. And she was like, oh, Carly, finally. And I like blew past her. I was like, I can't talk right now. And like, so she probably just thought I was a full blown cunt because I just like, I was like, I can't talk.
At that point, nothing matters.
Oh, no.
God, no.
It's, all bets are off. Yeah. And so I go into the bathroom and it's, it's like a talent bathroom, but there's stalls everywhere. So I go into a stall and I'm like, I got to assess the situation. Like, I got to see how bad this is. And I pulled on my pants and I was like, it's bad. It's like really bad. It's like really bad. Like, it's not just like, just wipe it up. It's adorable. No, it's like bad.
It's like you need like a shower and new outfit, Dad.
Yes, like full rehaul.
Wardrobe.
So now I'm in a full state of panic and I have T-minus 10 minutes and I don't know what to do. And so I like take everything off and I'm sitting there and I was like, so I just like threw the underwear in the trash thing because like those were no good to me anymore. And I'm like, okay, fuck it. So I'm in the toilet and I'm like trying to rinse my pants in the toilet water. It's clean toilet water. But
no.
I'm trying to rinse my pants just to get it off. And I'm like wringing them out because I don't have another option. And I'm like wringing them out and now they're wet and I can't go out and use the hand dryer because I'm full Winnie the Pooh at this point. Like I'm all tops and no bottoms. So like I can't go out and use the hand dryer or anything. So I'm like sweating.
You're blowing on them?
I'm trying to get them
with
dry
your mouth. You're blowing on
them. Yes, because I'm trying to get them dry. And so finally they're like, Carly, are you just about ready? And I got to call it at this point. I had to put my wet pants back on. And like, thank God I had perfume with me. I probably smelled like a Bath Body Works, like one of the you walk by in the mall and you're you instantly have a headache. That's probably what it smelled like. But it was better than the alternative, which was just smelling like human feces. So,
right.
So I go out there and I'm just like, I'm just shaking and like, I'm trying to fix my face and like the semblance of my hair and like what little bit of makeup is left on and what small amount of dignity is still intact. And I like put my purse on and I went out and they were like, are you ready? And I was like, okay. And so we went out and we did the whole panel and it went wonderfully and whatever. And I just prayed the whole time. I was like, please, I don't smell like shit. Please don't let me smell like shit.
Don't let anyone notice.
My manager comes over to me after. He's like, that went really well. I was like, yeah, you have to get the car. We have to leave immediately. I shit my pants. We have to go. It's time to go.
And all she wanted to tell you was that
she
loved you as
So I
Tickles.
tell her this whole story and I'm thinking that she's going to be like, oh my God, like, what a real person. Like she like shared this moment with me or whatever. And she was like, okay. It was really nice to meet you. And I was like, no.
I was like, no,
you're not appreciating what just happened.
You react to that differently, lady.
You have different reactions and emotions.
That is so funny.
But that's a real thing that happened to me.
That's something similar happened to Eric, actually.
I knew you were going to say that.
I thought I debated
you were
whether
gonna
I
say
wanted
that.
to go there, whether or not. Something happened to me too. I was in kindergarten.
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay,
No.
no.
That's not.
No.
But
you were
no,
not a full-blown adult.
No, you were an adult when it happened.
I don't care
know.
who you are. I don't care who you are. Everybody in here done had a shitty day.
Right.
Like, get out of here. I always poop their
People
pants at some
shit
point.
their pants.
But when
It
it
happens.
but when it happens on
Sometimes-
stage
Sometimes it happens in front of 30,000 people.
during a bit of choreography.
We landed at the Reno airport and it was early and it was one of those radio shows. It was like Run DMC or like
Ludacris
and like all the and No Authority. And we're
that
like,
was very random.
You're like, okay.
So we go down the escalator to go to baggage claim and it's like the clouds part is like, it was Taco Bell to go. So it's my fault. This is all my fault. I had 2 cheeseburgers.
To go.
2 cheeseburgers
That's
at
right.
Taco Bell. I had 2 bean and cheese burritos. And it was fine. The sound check, fine. The sound check, I was like, oh, move it.
Yeah.
Like running to my hotel room.
Oh,
it
yeah.
was a full Dumb and Dumber moment. And then I was fine. And did the show. And then it just decided to come right back. Right. We had 5 songs set. Song number 3 is when it decided to come back. And the choreography goes like this. I hope the cameras can get this. I don't think you will.
Come maybe
gonna say, yeah.
back here. Maybe
I go
we
like
can.
this. She drives me crazy. Oh, like 4.
No.
Full blown. Yeah, and then
How many
whoa,
blasts?
Whoa. Then
2 blasts.
there was
Oh my God.
Then in the show we're wearing clothes underneath our clothes, and we do a whole strip thing
No,
where we
no.
just switch outfits.
Reveal.
A big reveal.
Oh, bigger than you think.
Big reveal. And I was like, she drives me crazy. I was okay. Then I had to do a tumbling pass. It was just, and then we were sharing a dressing room with Run DMC. So then I go back in, and they just got there, and they're all hanging out, and I'm like,
Oh, no.
and I was in the bathroom for a very, very long time. So in conclusion, everybody shits their pants.
Yeah.
But when he tells his stories to people, they react differently.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
My
So-
lady
so-
didn't
so listen.
appreciate it.
So for the record, if anyone ever comes to you again and you tell that story, how do you want them to react?
I mean, laugh.
Right, exactly. Because it's freaking funny.
Because that's hilarious.
She was so. I think she was like really upset that
Maybe she had to go and she was just trying to get away.
I don't know what was going on. My favorite is when people are like, "Oh, my Uber's here," but you like see them hit the button in the moment. You're like, "Oh, my Uber just got here." You're like,
Speaking
Speaking
our
of
Uber is
going.
almost here. Carly, I'm so happy that you did this and you said yes. I was nervous to ask you. And
Why?
So, I don't know.
Don't ever be nervous.
I get weird like that. It was your birthday that I said I have the perfect guest, and it was for your birthday of Drag Queen Bingo. And I was like, well, maybe I'll say it, but I just don't want to be rude. So I just want to say thank you so much.
"Yeah, duh."
You made me look very good, and I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Anything I can do to help? Not that you need the help,
Well, thank you.
because you are lovely.
He is a lovely gentleman, isn't he?
And Tommy, you're a lovely gentleman.
Well, thank you. I try. I do what I can.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to the Real Showcast.
And thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. And make sure to watch the season 2 premiere of the guest book October 23rd. I don't even know when the show. Don't fucking listen.
October
to me.
23rd?
October 23rd.
Okay. And is there anything else in the works that people should look out for as well? Or your focus on the guest book right now?
Yeah, that's pretty much just where everything's being focused.
And what are your handles?
So everything's at Carly Jibson, CarlyJibson, not to be confused with Carly Rae Jepsen. And no, I don't want to fucking talk about that. I came first. Carly Jibson, that's it, at Carly Jibson.
Love you.
Thank you so much. Well, from the Real Showcast, we want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Huge
Thank you for
shout
being
out
here.
to K-Gem.
Thank you guys so much.
You guys are awesome.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Oh yeah.